If you've ever lived in a capitalist democracy or have studied economics, then you've certainly heard of supply and demand. The basic concept is that companies produce goods and services that are available for sale, and they don't want to produce too much above what demand can sell, what consumers can buy. So cases where you end up having a higher supply but a lower demand means that you have to find ways of offsetting the difference to be able to reach an equilibrium. So in cases like that, you may drop the price. You may advertise or market your good or service. And if the reverse is true, that means more people want to purchase the item than the item is currently available, and hence prices end up rising or stockpiles decrease, again to reach an equilibrium. The theory on supply and demand only works, however, if companies are truly looking for that equilibrium. It's because of these reasons that prices have went up during the pandemic. What is often neglected is the conversation about just-in-time or made-to-order goods and services, primarily for the idea of goods. You don't want to go and have too high of a stockpile in case you can't get rid of it quickly. So that is one issue. The other issue is that often supply chains are spread globally. You may have a widget made in one country and a gadget made in another country, and these have to ship to a third or fourth or fifth country for manufacturing to put something together, like an automobile. And companies are still trying to get back to the new normal after the pandemic. I own stock in Coke, but I, as a consumer, wonder why the price of a 2-liter of Diet Coke has went from 99 cents on sale a couple of years ago to almost $3.50 today. And you have to remember that the World Health Organization might say that diet sodas such as Diet Coke, and I'm not picking on Coke in particular, they're all bad in this respect, contain aspartame, which could be a carcinogen. So companies are making huge profits. Are they seeking equilibrium? I do not know. But what I can tell you is I think we produce too much of junk in the world. There are tons and tons of items. Just look through Amazon or a catalog and see all the bizarre things that are created nowadays. Many things with a very small niche audience that doesn't make any sense, that doesn't contribute to society, that doesn't improve the lives of people, that basically are just wasted money for things you won't probably ever use if you purchase it. And there are costs associated with that. Not just the cost that the consumer spends when purchasing an item or a service, but things like the resources and things like the supply chains and items like externalities. We've already discussed the issues of spreading a long supply chain across multiple countries. We've seen its impact and effect during the pandemic. So I won't discuss that much more. The idea of resources, however, is much easier to grasp, and it comes down to relative scarcity. There's only so much of precious metals on this planet. There's only so much of water. There's only so much of electricity that we can generate at any given point in time and store that energy. While I'm not saying that these things could be better used for other items today, which often they can be, but also for future generations. If we end up using up a limited, scarce resource that future generations won't be able to, we're doing a disservice to the future. Now, the last related point was externalities, and that by definition is the true cost of producing a good. So you have to look at the land use. You have to look at what goes into a product, its ingredients or its composition or its chemical makeup. You have to look at what it takes to create that good, specifically whether that's humans or automation or whatever. You also have to look at what goes into its packaging, and its marketing, and its shipping, and what pollution it might go and put in the environment. These are all concerns, especially now with global warming and climate change that we've been facing for the past. The Industrial Revolution started in the early 1800s. We would be better off from a perspective of supply chain and resource allocation and things like externalities if we didn't go and spend so much of time trying to be a consumer-focused marketplace. That's not what we as individuals believe we are. You know, if you ask a person what they are, the first thing that they say is not going to be, "Oh, I'm a consumer. I just bought this today." People don't think like that. People want to be authentic. They want to be able to be expressive and for them to be seen and to be heard and understood. We're not just buyers. If you're old enough to remember when the attacks happened in September 11th, President W said, "The most important thing we can do as citizens is purchase stuff." I wasn't a big fan of W. But if we all end up buying things that we need, that offer us form and function and utility, that could also last a long-term time, that's durable, or that you might be able to pass on to a future generation. I mean, that's one thing. But if you end up buying something that ends up sitting in your closet or in your attic forever, what's the point? We would have better allocation in resource utilization if we spent that money elsewhere or saved it. And most of us need to go and really increase our savings if we ever want to save for an emergency or retirement or whatever that rainy day may be that comes up invariably, especially in a country like America where we have to go and face conceivably, tens of thousands of dollars in debt just over costs like tuition at a university or medical bills that people in other countries don't have to face and don't worry about those particular kinds of issues. But it's, especially if you're working, it could be argued that time is money, and you're spending X amount of time per day to purchase particular items. If I end up going and buying a 2-liter of Diet Coke, which could give me cancer, I'm looking at spending a fraction of an hour to purchase this item, minus taxes and everything else, which doesn't seem to be a good utilization of my time as a resource. Which gets me to another point that's not directly related to supply and demand, but as I was saying, people want to feel like they have a purpose in life, that they are authentic and they're their true selves and can express that. But unfortunately, in most areas of work, we end up having jobs where we don't feel that we're contributing in a positive way to society or to nature or to the environment or to the causes and things that we're passionate about. Imagine if instead of working the average American 5 days a week doing our job, and by the way, in most other countries people don't work 40 hours a week like we do in America, and haven't for decades. But imagine if one of those 5 days we spent 8 or 9 hours actually trying to solve some issues of the world, whether that's how to save the corals, or help people to understand what wokeness is, or to get people to start talking about social democracy and progressivism, or to talk about the Renaissance. I mean, we have so many problems in the world, and we have so many people, but we're not being used properly. We're not being utilized to solve the issues that are facing us. I think that's one of the reasons why so many people are burnt out and just fed up and disgusted with their jobs. And society in general. Society isn't geared towards the needs of the people who live in it. It's geared towards the richest amongst us who produce crap and sell it at a profit. I can't find my Diet Coke now. I dropped it on the floor. But society isn't geared towards the majority of us. It's geared towards the rich. It's geared towards the people who are raping the natural environment for resources to produce junk. Society needs a reset, and I think our economics needs a reset. We are producing too much of junk that people don't want, they don't need, and won't really use. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below if you agree or disagree with this summation. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Take care. Thanks for watching.